Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Economic Briefcase on Camnet TV. It's been a long time ever since I personally interacted with you. Today, I'm back from wherever I was, but I was following my brother Noah last week. It was a great show. I hope people are growing a lot of tomatoes. They are into farming and doing something productive. You know, whilst I was away, there were a lot of things that were happening in the country. Both people were discussing in Dambo. They were discussing a lot of things. Zambia is a country where there's a scandal or something to discuss all the time, and we easily move from one place to another. That just shows that Zambia is one community and it's one household, and that's why we emphasize, as a Camnet family, that we need to, love one another. We need to live in peace, and ours on earth is to fulfill the God's, path, and also to give Caesar what belongs to Caesar. And talking about Caesar, today we are going to discuss economic diplomacy and its role in national economic development. And our guest today is somebody that a lot of you know as a man who needs no introduction. And before I introduce our guest, let me throw it to my co-host, Mr. Noah, to pick it up from there.
Yeah, good evening, viewers. Welcome back, Doc. It's good to see you. I see you have a tan there.
Yeah, my beard is white. Maybe I own a booth.
So we go straight into our market update for today, the 14th of July. Let's look at how the Kwacha is doing against the four major currencies. So the Kwacha is selling at 16 Kwacha, 41 Ingwe. The pound closed off selling at 19 Kwacha, 48 Ingwe. The euro closed off selling at 16 Kwacha, 46 Ingwe. The rand closed off selling at 96 Ingwe. Selected metal prices delayed by a day. Aluminium closed off selling at $2,355.50. Copper closed off selling at $7,325.50. Zinc closed off selling at $2,951. Lead closed off selling at $1,954. Tin closed off selling at $25,364. Nickel closed off selling at $21,150. Crude oil prices, WTI crude, closed off selling at $93.94. Brent crude closed off selling at $97.60 a barrel. So we see that our oil prices, the crude oil prices have slightly gone down. You might be seeing a reduction in pump prices.
Wow. We're seeing a lot of interesting things, and before, as per tradition, we discussed that. Let me introduce a guest, because the guest is somebody who is going to be speaking to some of these issues about copper prices, oil and electric vehicles, and so on and so forth.
Definitely.
So today's guest, like I said, is a very, very good friend of mine. I'm sure few know that this man will come a long way. He's a man that I hold in high esteem. He's an accomplished journalist himself. He's an ambassador, served, various missions, and, Europe basically is his expertise, if you can call that. This is a person who understands, Zambia's relationship with diplomacy and what we can get from Europe. This is a person that has run, profitably our state newspapers. This is a man basically who has worked both in the private sector and in the public sector. This is a man who needs no introduction. Ambassador MUKWITA, it is a pleasure having you today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lubinda Habazoka. I am extremely humbled with your kind words. Let me start by thanking also your co-host, Mr. Njapao, and the Pastor Chiluba, and the doting wife, Victoria, and the entire Camnet family for being so gracious as to find time to invite me to come and lend an opinion on your very widely followed forum. I have been watching you and Mr. Njapao, take on matters of national interest in a non-formal way, and I have been attracted and looked at the way people have been coalescing towards what you're doing. All I can say is that I am happy to be here, privileged to be one of the people that you think must have an hour or 30 minutes to share.
Thank you very much. We are really humbled, and of course, we are following the footsteps of Pastor Chiluba. Of course, in my case, following them very badly. I think I haven't been to church in a while, so I'm using the forum to apologize. I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic. I'm a Pentecost, and I've been a Catholic.
Yeah.
Before I've gone Seventh Day before, and I've gone to the Russian Orthodox Church, which is also Christian.
Yes, yes.
Basically, I follow where Jesus Christ is. That's where
you follow love.
I follow, yes, love and
unity.
I've also enticed my brother here to come and join us.
Yeah.
To pray together at the Camnet. He's been a very bad disciple, but this weekend we are bringing him, and we are also going to invite you.
Please,
yes,
please.
Come and worship with Pastor Chiluba.
When is this happening?
It's on Sunday.
And the time?
It's 10 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, so we need to be seated before 10 hours.
Okay.
10 hours we go live. It's also live on TV. It's watched in, on satellite. You can watch us on, Facebook, and YouTube, on the internet. Whatever is internet is watched.
Whatever is online.
Yes, wherever there is internet.
Yeah.
So, I won't dwell into the market trends because I don't want to preempt what you are going to say, but we are going to come back to that.
Indeed.
We have a lot of millennials in this country. This is, a country of young blood, but very enthusiastic. So a lot of people might not know who Anton MUKWITA is. Who is Anton MUKWITA?
That's a mouthful, Doc. We could go on the whole hour, the whole 9 yards.
Briefly, as lecturers we say, briefly describe.
Indeed. I am glad.
And we are putting 4 marks there to limit you. I know we can go on and on.
You have just reminded me of getting back into a lecture theatre, but the short and tall of it really is Anthony MUKWITA is a Zambian, a husband, a brother, a father, and above all, largely a family man. Professionally, I have started off as being a media person. I started off as a journalist. Largely, I always tell people that the reason for this is because I couldn't really crunch numbers. I couldn't really count beyond 10 or 20 or add to the power or something. So I found it much easier to write and to verbalize than I could really add. So I got into the arts, and I got into journalism school, went to Evelyn Horn College, did my foundation course there, and from there on I started working for various media institutions in Zambia in the private sector. Largely. Those days we never believed that you were a journalist if you worked for the public media.
Yes.
Yeah, because it was believed to have been heavily controlled and that you never really had any independence if you worked for the state media. So I started off my career initially as a correspondent straight out of college, where we work without getting any pay. They call it internship, where you get paid by the word. But we loved our job so much that we went every day in the morning up to 5 doing a story and getting paid by the ngwe, until eventually the private media was growing. My first job, full-time job, was with the Sun newspaper. It was a great job. I mean, all of a sudden I had my name exclusive by Anthony MUKWITA and stuff. Eventually I went to the Post, and eventually we started writing for international media. I was the first journalist to bring in Bloomberg to Zambia. I was one of the 32 only official correspondents for Bloomberg in the entire Africa. And that really taught me a lot, because now I went beyond what we used to write, beyond the script. We started analyzing issues. Then I started realizing that sometimes some of the issues that we report, the sources of news are actually playing on our minds. We have reported this story before, but they'll bring it up in another way. I also started finding out that some of the stories that we were writing, they were actually not even stories. They were PR pieces. For instance, some guy donating books worth 20,000 kwacha did not warrant a story, but we wrote a story and we made this person look good. So eventually, anyhow, once you venture into international media and analysis and you start reporting other than the general politics, you start specializing in economic analysis and business analysis, you start seeing yourself much more differently from that journalist that goes to a media conference, gets a press statement, comes and places, cuts and pastes it and puts the name. So that was my part as the media, Anthony MUKWITA. But then eventually I moved from the print media. Some people somehow felt that I could do what you are doing now. I have known you as an economist, a very poignant one, a very renowned one for a very long time. But here we are now, you are asking questions about media, about life, about crude, about all these other issues. So some people felt that I could probably add a little value by also doubling up as a broadcaster. And in this case, some of these people are the Media Institute of Southern Africa, where I was a board member in charge of politics and parliament, when the media was really doing what we call checks and balances. Back in the day, it was quite tough, I can tell you. I think you were still in Russia.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so I used to double up doing Let the People Talk with Ambassador Frank Mutuvila of the famed Let the People Talk, until he did not feel, he didn't have that hunger anymore for it, and he gave it to me with Erohiki. So all of a sudden I found myself thrust into this spot and bubble where I had to do Let the People Talk on Tuesday and Let the People Talk on Friday. And I had the media program also called Face the Media for the Media Institute of Southern Africa. So you can imagine how much power I had as a young man, just below the age of 30. I could be coalescing and directing what the country would be discussing. Yes. It was too immense. It was so immense that about 2005, a year after I got married to my wife Elaine, and we just had our first child, the President Levi Mwanawa's administration were not very happy with my work, especially the fact that some of my most constant guests were the late President Michael Chilufya-Sata. May his soul rest in peace. Every time I had the late President Michael Chilufya-Sata, when he was in opposition, we used to practically stop traffic. Taxi drivers would park on the side, open their doors. People would be recording that and all. So the administration of the Levi Patrick Mwanawasa felt that I was part of a revolution that were trying to garner a negative sentiment against him, and they actually warned and cautioned me for sedition. Then I had to leave. That was in 2005. I had to leave the country because I was warned by others in the system that if I stayed on and I continued on the trajectory of speaking the truth and offering criticism and checks and balances, I could get in trouble. President Sata himself, may his soul rest in peace, got me the ticket and said, get out to wherever you want to go. You do something, but away from here, because things could not get better for you if you stay around. That's how I left to go to Australia and enrolled in university with great encouragement again from Madam. I did now instead of just wasting the time and buying it off, decided to enroll into Edith Cowan University, which is one of the oldest and most respected universities in Australia. It's in Western Australia. You know, Australia is like a federation, like the United States, like Russia. Yeah, where I studied. I first enrolled for a course in journalism. So when they looked at my CV and the experience and some of the awards that I had gotten, they said, no, you will not be able to get much from the journalism course, but what we can offer you is you study the study of journalism. So I studied a master's degree, a postgrad degree in Master of Professional Communications, which is a study of the media. And after a year and a half, I was able to graduate with, out of 12 modules, I got out at least with 6 distinctions, despite being a full-time father, a full-time worker, no scholarship, and you know, but the idea was that let's do what we can so that we can get back to Zambia. We never had our heart in Australia. We're always thinking of coming back to Zambia. It was like the gravitational force was always saying, you have to be in Zambia. This is your country. This is where your son, Luwinda. By the way, my son is your namesake. Yeah, Luwinda, which is also my name. Yeah, so I always wanted to come back. We spent about 5-6 years in Australia from 2005. Not a day passed without me thinking of coming back to Zambia. And we got back to Zambia in 2010. 2011, we continued to work between 2010 and with President Sata. And 2011, September, he won office. And I was one of the first people, thanks to others whom I knew before, such as President Edgar Lungu, who came later on. I was made Deputy Managing Director for the Zambia Daily Mail, which was the worst performing newspaper in the country at that time. It used to sell about 2,000 copies per day, when the topmost papers, such as the Post, were 40,000 and above. The highest selling state paper, like the Times of Zambia, was above 10,000. I remember my wife saying, why are you choosing the West? Because I had a choice, actually, like to where I was going. So I said, I think it's always better for you to measure yourself if you start from zero, going up, than if you're going up and then you start coming down. We did some wonders at the Zambia Daily Mail. The shape of the Zambia Daily Mail that you see, that's my actually personal, my personal plan. I worked on that for more than a year and a half. It was rejected. It was dissected, but eventually they did accept it. And regarding the numbers and the debt, that will probably be a story for another day. I'll probably end this here, the media part, before we go to another part of diplomacy.
So I'll take you in front and bring you back
Indeed.
To the SATA and those are most interesting times. I remember the first time I saw you. You probably did not know me, but I knew you because you were a very famous person. I think infamous.
Mr.
2014.
President. Yes.
Yeah, at Francis Mutachi's lodge, Lunte Lodge, in Kiddo, just before the...
Yeah, just after the death of President Sata.
President Sata, yes, and I said, okay. Yeah.
You were based in the Copperbelt,
I was
right?
at Copperbelt University.
You at CBU?
Yes. I was
were you still at school? You had already returned from Russia?
I had already returned and I was heading the accounting and finance department.
I see.
Yes.
No, I do recall, but you know that time we were really like pariahs, so lots of you could not really come near us, because especially the place that you have mentioned at Lunte,
yes,
that was a place that belonged to current Minister of Honorable Felix Mutati.
Whom I respect very much.
Exactly, and who was also running for president.
Yes.
Now, can you imagine a guy?
I don't know that he's a very, very close person.
Indeed. Indeed. I know him personally too. From
Zambia is basically one small place.
It's a very small place.
One big family.
Yes.
Big family.
So you were in the midst of
yes, I was just
fiesta.
observing, you know, what can we say? So I was just observing and, you know, I know a lot of things. The day I'm going to be interviewed.
Indeed.
From, say, 2010 to date, I can share a lot of things.
No, but I am sorry to cut you short. I know this is your show, Doc. But why should we wait for you to be interviewed? I would like to throw the gauntlet at you and say, the day I am going to write, the way you're going...
I'll write about it.
Yeah.
But
what do you think, Mr. Japan?
I think he should do that.
Yes.
He should.
Because I know myself personally, and I'm glad he said this program is conversational and informal, so that's why I'm able to graciously cut it
We
down.
have a lot of people that have been able to move or shift the narrative in this country.
Indeed.
To contribute to national economic development, and unfortunately a lot of these things remain in the background.
Yeah.
They remain
Unscripted.
in the background, unscripted,
undocumented. They remain a rumor.
When people write books, that's when they
Yeah.
realize, so this person did
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And it's better to write names so that people understand.
Indeed. Not fiction.
Yes, not that it's not
Yeah.
fiction.
Yeah.
And there are people that, and I think when maybe after 5 years, I'll be able to write a book when
I think that should be a work in progress. I think there should be something sitting somewhere.
There must be something. When you hear the dog speak like that.
There must be something.
Yeah.
I've observed the rise of Michael Sata and the downfall of first I've observed UNIP. You know, to me that was how a society is supposed to be created. You know, where children are indoctrinated to love their own country. In fact, we need to force Zambians to love Zambia.
Yeah.
We were forced.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was, but I was given a UNIP card. At grade 1, I had the card. I was a UNIP cadre. When I reached home, I was warned that no one should ever see you tear this thing or throw it or what. This thing should be held like sacred. It was the UNIP card was it was a very, very sacred. I've held I think 2 or 3 UNIP cards.
Yeah.
I'm telling you at grade 1, from grade 1 level.
So you are taught to love the country.
Yes.
You know, to me, that sounds like a little bit of re-education. He's advocating for re-education camps, saying people should be taught to love their country.
Indeed.
And
I tell you what,
by the MMD, how to fight for economic freedom, as we thought at that time, liberalization of the economy. So we were sticking posters, being used to stick posters.
The hour has
come. The hour. We would go and write on the walls, the hour. So when the youth today are talking, we just look. We've been through this, and these are things that we've learned.
The story has. You've watched this movie before.
Well, we have watched this movie before. Then I've also saved the Zadekos, the national parties of the Humphrey Mulembas. We observed the third term I had disappeared from Zambia. I was not in Zambia, but we were reading about it. When Awasa came, Sata was when I was now seeing how a person is able to mobilize a movement based on his own character. Not because his own character.
And his own ideology.
And I happened to be in Quito, which was the capital city of his movement. That's why he held his last rally called the Mother of All Rallies at Freedom Park, where the whole country, you could not drive. I remember trying to drive to Ndora because I was told, I always run away from noise.
So
as I'm driving, I could not drive out because there were people from all over coming there. Then, of course, I observed the by-election that we had. And there, we were very instrumental in one way or the other for one party or the other. Those are things that we live in the background and we shall be able to write. So today we can even look, people insult you and you just look and say, you don't know. Because at one point you could not walk in a province, but we made it possible for you to walk there. And today there's emancipation. So some soldiers remember those that were in there. But we have done that. The reason I'm saying this is
he equally has a wonderful story.
I know how he would move the narrative in the country. Today the country is going to be discussing this. You give it to them, they start discussing it. And you know, what we discuss in the nation is what builds a nation.
Indeed.
That's why I don't like it when we are talking about scandals, gym instructor, this. That is rubbish.
Yeah.
As a country, we need to discuss aggressive issues and progressive issues. And this brings me to the time when you were ambassador. You were very instrumental in the coining of the term economic diplomacy.
Yeah.
This is a term in Zambia that started being used 2017, 18, 19, until I also held a summit under in Livingstone under the theme economic diplomacy and what. But I remember your articles, economic diplomacy, and and today we are talking about it. I mean, today we have a huge event in the country, and we are discussing economic diplomacy. How can Zambia not just send people abroad? You are press aid, you are political advisor, you are what? People just go and drink wine at those embassy parties. People just... How can we use diplomatic missions to foster the agenda of developing this particular country called Zambia?
Interesting question, very, very important. And I think you only understand or overstand the importance of the question that you have mentioned because of your economic background. And the other issue that you raised also was that one of the commitment to a country where you were taught to love your country at a very early age. So that which you love, you will always want to build upon, layer. And that which you don't love, you really don't care much about. So if you go abroad and you are not really committed as an economic player or as a player of any sort, you will just end up in the cocktail parties. What we need to do as we re-engineer the way forward for growing or boosting the economy of the country, the GDP, Mr. Japao, I noticed you were mentioning the crudes, the brains and everything else here, is we need to have people first that have a passion for the country, that realize the potential that the country has. That has to overstudy. Why am I being sent abroad? Am I being sent abroad to toast a glass of champagne? Or am I being sent abroad to ensure that the 50%, the more than 50% of the youth that exist in Zambia that do not have jobs are depending on me to chip in at least 1% or 2%? Because if there is 38 embassies that Zambia has, and I'm one of the members of the 38, I should make myself a target to say every year, maybe either in a hospital, maybe either in the agriculture sector, maybe in the education sector, I should bring in. That's the reason you saw we suddenly moved up this thing from the previous political diplomacy, which was mainly about attaining independence, colonial independence, to now say, since Kaunda has gotten rid, and then I'm walking back in your steps, Kaunda has helped us get rid of the British colonialists, colonialism. We moved on now to economic liberalization, which you participated in as an active student with FTJ. You know, the hour has come. The time has come to an end when we shall depend on crumbs. Zambia, you're going to have to tighten your belts because it's going to be tough, but we're going to liberalize the economy. Remember how colorful the speeches were and the potholes.
Then when he stayed for 3 years, he would say, rebuilding the devastated infrastructure doesn't take one day.
Yes.
It needs a matter of time.
Exactly. You know, the story in politics changes all the time. Of course. Yeah, but you know, so we decided, myself and a few other people who had the personal aspirations of President, that we needed to change the narrative where diplomats do not go to hide in embassies because they are scared that if they speak, then somebody says, oh, Dr. Luinda Hawazoka is in Russia. You must recall him. So the tendency by most of them, I can tell you, and it's very, very sad, it's actually almost criminal, is to fly below the radar. Lay low, nobody should hear about you. Just get your paycheck at the end of the day, get your walking stick or your thick 20-inch lenses and stay home and get paid. But we decided that what we should do is we should look at the competitive advantages that Zambia has, which should help the people back home. Because remember, Doc, Brother Noah, the government burns a lot of money to keep an ambassador and 5, 10, or 12, or 20. Like in my case, I was heading one of the biggest embassies out of the 38. It's a lot of money they pay. The rentals would range from anything from $3,000 to $5,000 per month. So you have some of these people who basically, I mean, to use the term and diplomatically, are deadwood, but they would be there getting this money, and yet you are not getting back what you need. And what do you need? That's where we came in with the term economic diplomacy. You look at what the country of representation you are in has to offer, which you take back home. Because then you will be giving your country that is spending taxpayers' money on you an equal chance to get something, to get back, to justify your stay there. But many would prefer to simply just stay below the radar because foreign service at the end of the month and nobody has to know anything. So that's the reason we kept talking about, say, for instance, what do we have in Germany? In Germany, when we looked at in Germany, I looked at the fact that this is the world's 5th largest economy. This is the world that has the best cars and automobile industry in the world. It has VW, it has Mercedes-Benz, it has Cayenne, Porsche Cayenne, all these cars. And then when you do your own studies, you find that the world is now moving towards a different level of automobiles. And now you have read why and everything is coming back. It's like, ask not whom the drum tolls for, it tolls for thee. They are talking about electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are going to be the main thing. And then, so if you are in that setup where they are pumping in money to make electric vehicles the main thing in order to move away from the fossils, what they are calling dirty fuels now, then you have to start looking at how you can enhance that for your country. And then you look at your own country, you have to look at the comparative advantages. You find that Zambia is Africa's 2nd largest copper producer, which comes with cobalt. Along the way, we have several other minerals, Doc. We've got lithium, we've got manganese, and you know that the electric vehicle, the components that go towards making the batteries or the vehicle itself, 70% of them are from what we have. 2 years ago, the industry was at about $200 billion annually. Wow. By 2030, Doc, and I know you know this, by 2030, by the way, I have to thank you later on as we go on, by 2030, the industry is going to be heating, it's going to be moving towards tipping the scale of about $800 billion. And all the things that they want in order to make this battery are available in Zambia. So in 2019, before the world closed down due to the pandemic, I and my team started engaging with some of these companies to see how we could get Zambia looped in so that we can get even just $1 billion. Which brings me to one thing. Before the program, when you graciously invited me, I sent a picture because I remembered that you are one of the few people that had seen what we were doing in economic diplomacy. You actually, and I have my fellow viewers, Camnet viewers, Pastor Chiluva and Madam Victoria, and you know, you were one of the few people that believed in our economic diplomacy message, that you paid for my ticket when we were undergoing austerity measures. Yes. As president of the Economics Association of Zambia, this brother paid for my ticket business. As ambassador, we owned a fly business. I'm sorry, yeah. Paid for my ticket from Berlin and back, Lusaka and Livingston, and I took off from Livingston there. I think it's going to be exactly the anniversary by July 26.
Yeah, because I've started seeing that on Facebook as well.
Indeed, it's coming up. So I was hoping we could share that memory. But the reason I am saying this...
the company, but besides that, very few people know that. During that time, we get to know each other, and besides the electric vehicle industry, there was one thing about renewable energy.
Indeed.
That we helped push.
Yeah.
And as we speak today, when the government passed a policy to say you can have, besides ZESCO, you can have other off-takers of electricity.
Yeah.
And today we have in Zambia an off-taker of renewable energy, solar energy in the country. I'm not saying that it's me who brought it, but I'm trying to say that this brother and me, we helped so that bureaucracy and inertia that exists,
cutting through the red tape,
cut through so that thing works selflessly. And we are seated, and that is undocumented. That is what I was trying to say.
Indeed.
And people will insult you on Facebook to say, what have you done here?
Yeah.
We did it not because we had a cut from it.
No.
We did it not because we were going to get jobs from that or to look good, but we did it because
it was for the nation.
We were forced to love our country.
We were passionate.
That was one of the because people say, I bought him a ticket. I want just people to
understand. That there is a history.
There is a history, and there were results.
There were results. And in fact, like you were saying, we can't name names.
Yes.
But we went to far as an extent of making some of these companies and bringing them to meet the Republican president. To explain fully that this has to be included in the policy. But I didn't finish because I think I know you are usually shy. I didn't finish, but as we go towards the anniversary by July 26, I just wanted to say that the economic diplomacy under the Economics Association of Zambia, led by Dr. Lovenda Havaswaka, was just something else. I hadn't seen anything that vibrant in several years. The reason I say this is very simple, and I like to cut just straight to the chase. He brought in 3 presidents in one room and brought the whole country to a standstill. In some other parlance, they would have said, for the first time, that we had the sitting head of state, a visiting head of state, and an immediate past head of state, and international dignitaries, international farmers from South Africa, from Germany, and everywhere, in one room. Brother, that should never be taken away from you. And since we said this is an informal discussion, I just wanted to bring that to the fore. And as you document your memoirs, that's one of the things.
I think, the association by them wasn't even known. I think it was out there, and
yes,
it had died out. Really.
Like they say to Winnie Mandela, you were persecuted by the apartheid regime and disowned by your own.
Wow, that rhymes.
There's a statement to that. But coming back to the figures we saw, Mr. No. We saw one thing. Copper prices, 11,000 2-3 months ago, 11,000. Now they are 7,000.
Below the 10, the 9.
Yes.
Then we see the crude oil, the Brent. Last week we were above 100, and now
and below that.
Below
so
that.
I want you to. I know you're not an economist. As
Indeed.
a diplomat. After this short break,
Short break, yes.
I want you to put to context you understand European politics. Why there's a relationship between why copper prices are falling and what is happening in Europe today, vis-a-vis Russia, Europe, Ukraine, and what is our future and how can we benefit from this?
That's great.
After this short break, we continue. We are hosting Ambassador Anton MUKWITA. We are discussing the role of diplomacy in national economic development. We are also going to open the lines so that you can also interact with us. You can start already sending us messages on the numbers that appearing below the screen. See you in a short while.
Oh, we testify, we celebrate.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay
We
tuned.
testify, we celebrate. For all you've done, Lord, we give you all the praise. Oh, we testify, we celebrate. Oh, Lord, we give you all the praise.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Economic Briefcase on Camnet TV. Today we are hosting Ambassador Anton MUKWITA, and we are discussing the role of diplomacy in economic development. And just when we went for a short break, my friend here, co-host Mr. Noah, presented to us some figures. So let's get back to that, because now we want to understand European geo-economic whatever policies that I discussed. What do you think? What is happening to the rates? Copper going down, fuel, of course, also going down.
With also its own reasons. It
Yes.
wasn't supposed to go down, but it was supposed to continue going up.
Going up,
because
yes.
of certain reasons, it's going down.
So what is happening?
Well, first of all, we are looking at we might be going into a global crisis, economic crisis. So we see a lot of people in the oil market trying to sell long term to hedge their risks, basically. So you find once they do that, the prices start falling. Okay. And also there's a scare of a new COVID variant, and China is locking down. So there's an issue of demand and supply. Then with the copper prices, I'm sure you can elaborate more on that as an expert on that. In that
I think it's the same. China is shutting down because of COVID lockdown.
There's a new variant actually.
Then Europe has no energy to produce, and no market to sell to. Because Russia, they closed themselves off Russia. Russia used to buy their vehicles and their finished products.
Yeah.
Africa can't really afford European goods. They are not competitive versus Chinese goods. Chinese are cheaper.
Yeah.
So there's no demand for copper. You know, there's no demand for fuel in Europe because companies are not working. There's reduced economic activities.
Yeah.
And we have seen Boris Johnson, the first one to go. He has resigned.
After only 3 years in office.
We have seen, is it Draghi from Italy?
Italy, yeah.
Is also announced.
By the way, just a little bit about that one. That caught me a little bit of an away.
Yes, just like 2, 3, 4 hours ago, he met the president and he said he's resigned.
He's hanging up the boats.
What
Vote of no
reasons,
confidence.
has he given?
Their parliament has given him a vote of no confidence.
It's similar to the Bojo issue.
Bojo issue, yes. The handling of economic issues. And Ukraine has a lot to do with this.
Geopolitics, basically.
Geopolitics. So,
Yeah.
based on your experience,
Yeah.
what muscle does Europe have in terms of economic development? Can they really develop us? Do they have that muscle? Or what opportunities, as Zambians or Africans, what opportunities do we have in Europe? I know there's plenty.
Yeah.
How should we behave in the Ukraine-Russia, they call it special military operation? How should we behave?
I would like to bring the argument, the discussion or the conversation much closer to home than even go that far. I would like to bring our discussion and conversation to the Southern African Development Cooperation SADC. I would like to bring it closer to home, to the common market for Eastern and Southern Africa, before we can even cross the border or the continent and go that far. Remember, Doc, we have a population of almost 500 million, about 500 million people in the common market of Eastern and Southern Africa. And this population has a combined GDP of about $800 million, almost $1 billion buying power, and it has a very youthful population. Zambia belongs to this. So sometimes I think it is fallacious for us to even dream that far as that, to thinking about what we can do with Germany, what we can do with Sweden, what we can do with the United Kingdom, before we fully exploit what we can do right here in Africa. So it is not wrong to look beyond the continent, but let us start first. Look at the situation here in Zambia. We have a very competitively and strategically placed location in the central Southern African region, where we are surrounded by 8 countries. We've got Tanzania, we've got Namibia, we've got South Africa, we've got Angola. Let me pick up 1 or 2 for the sake of reducing the discussion. Look at Angola. Angola spends or burns about $2 billion every year importing what? Dairy and beef and poultry products from Portugal, followed by China, followed by the United States of America, then eventually by South Africa. Look at the size of the border that Zambia shares with Angola. Look at the diplomatic relationships that Zambia shares with Angola. Look at the political history that Zambia shares with Angola. We have basically had refugees staying in Zambia, in Mongo, in northwestern province from 1975, when the UNITA and MPLA fiasco started, to the time that both Savimbi and just last week Jose dos Santos died. We have not monetized and tried to take advantage of our competitive advantages. And I think with you being around and having been around that far away and having come back, these are some of the things that we should look at. If Angola is spending $2 billion on poultry, dairy, and potatoes from Portugal, which is so far away, how much can we make as Zambia, which shares more than 1,000 kilometers of a border? We've got arable land. We've got 60% of the water. I will look at another country which is very close to us, Namibia. Namibia got its independence basically riding on the back of Zambia, like several other African countries have done. But Namibia depends on its food, apart from its cattle ranching. It's got good cattle ranching, you know that. Yes. But all its vegetables, its cabbages and its poultry and lots of other agriculture products come from South Africa, which is has a
looks like a desert. When you go to Africa,
yes,
there's no sun,
yeah,
there's no black soil. It looks like a desert, but it's feeding us.
Yes.
But so you find that some of the chicken that South Africa actually exports and us Zambians import here, some of it doesn't really come from South Africa. It comes from Portugal. That's the thing. South Africa now gets that then they chickens. And
it's like subcontract. I mean, it's like, remember that time we had an issue of, Zambia cannot import onions or cooking oil and what. But some people who were clever were able to get that and then sell it into Zambia in order to fill in that gap. So I'm just saying, like looking at the geopolitical, geo-economic politics, if we started by taking advantages, if we started like the Economics Association of Zambia, the way I knew it under Dr. Lubinda Habazoka, would have already set up some committee. One committee to look at how we can benefit from Namibia, one committee to look at how we can benefit from Tanzania, another one from Angola and Mozambique, and look at what they have, what they don't have. Look at the Democratic Republic of Congo just next door, Katanga, 20 million people, which is the same size as Zambia. In fact, 1 million more than Zambia. We share the same poultry, which is not enough for Zambia. We share the same fish, which is still not enough for Zambia. We share the same maize, which is still not even enough for Zambia. Why don't we grow just specifically on the border or in the area of Kawambo and Samfya and the other ones, just to feed the DRC instead of the 3 million metric tons annual national reaping of maize? Why not just 3 million metric tons just for the DRC? How much would we earn? I know you know the numbers better, how much a metric ton is. Instead of the potatoes that Namibia and Angola are importing from China and Portugal and Argentina and Brazil, why doesn't Zambia do this? If we can sit on the table and we have our leaders always talking about, can we sit on the table and discuss with Vedanta? Can we sit on the table and discuss with First Quantum Minerals? Can we sit on the table and discuss with Rio Tinto or with Barrick Gold? Why can't we sit on the table? We've got people who are doing a job full-time, paid for by taxpayers, whom you can give 2 weeks, 3 weeks to come with a report of how we can do 1 million metric tons of potatoes for Angola, 1 million metric tons of potatoes for Namibia, 1 million metric tons of cassava for Namibia, for Tanzania, which they need a lot.
Sorry.
Before we start looking for all these foreign solutions on how we can become rich, how we can reduce poverty, how we can create jobs, we are sitting on solutions and we are whining and mourning when we have the water, we have the youthful population, and we have the arable land.
What do you think about these initiatives that are coming up? Is this talk about the Copper Belt Katanga company, the battery company that...
I think it is good. Brother Noah, I think it's a good thing. I think it falls into something that we've already been talking about, which is one of the reasons why Brother Doc Habazoka had invited some of us in 2019 for the Economic Diplomacy Conference, because we were saying we need to start tapping in now. Remember, the issue is this industry is going to blow up to about $1 billion annually. And no, 800 billion annually in the next 5-7 years, and we still haven't taken on the baton and started seeing what we can do. We are still just discussing it every day, unless there is something that we don't know. But I think there is need for urgent action, such as multi-facility economic zones, where you should be able to send these people from our government ministries or even private sector. I know the time that Brother Lubinda was around, there would have been people running around, going to BMW, going to Audi, and trying to engage them and bringing them to say, here is the government department that you need to see in order to get your licenses for what you're talking about, the Katanga, Zambia battery thing. Talking is one thing. You can talk for a very long time, but you need to set deadlines on how long this talk is going to be before you can get action. That's why you've seen some people have talked a big game, but at the end of the big game, there hasn't been anything at all. You need to set deadlines. And I know, because I come from a diplomacy background, and I come from a media background, and I come from an academic background, we write theses. We are given the period in which you have to do your proposal, in which you have to present it, in which you have to finish it, in which you have to get feedback. Because if you never got those deadlines, nothing would ever happen.
You're watching Economic Briefcase on Camnet TV. We are now opening the phone lines. You can send us also text messages on the numbers that are appearing below the screen. You can call us. When you call us, just tell us your name and where you're calling from, and we'll be able to interact with you. Mr. Njapao, you had something to say.
Well, I was actually thinking that, car batteries, electric vehicles, I think the person who's going to establish this, not an assembly plant, but let's say a factory for batteries. I mean, a repair center. Yes, a repair center. A charging port, what do they call those? Charging docks? Yeah, I think that would be a very viable business idea, and they'll really make money.
The first person who moves into the industry is the one who's going to make money.
Exactly. And why can that first person be you and Brother Njapao?
Hey, in Zambia, when you just start doing something, what happens? Everybody comes on you.
What do you mean everybody comes? Elaborate.
I gave an example of why people sent to the embassies should keep quiet. When people hear about you, I don't understand. Call him.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's
I'm an embassy
Speaking of that,
we have a first caller in Japan.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I know your name and where you're calling from, sir or madam?
I'm calling from Rwanda.
Yes, sir.
My name is Captain Frederick Chopper.
Yes, Mr. Chupa.
Yes, I'm enjoying the program. Good evening, Dr. Pinda.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Brother Japao.
good evening, how are you?
I'm okay, Ambassador. Good morning, MUKWITA.
Boss, how are you this evening?
I'm very blessed permanently.
Thank you.
It's good to have people who can discuss things like that. I'm well blessed by the Pastor Chiruba and Pastor Victoria. So this is a lot of channel. Because it's not one of the other channels, but the channel which we listen to. Please, my question is, as you are you not planning to be in the forefront to foster this development you are talking about and give the deadline? I think the new government, the new government, should also arrive to work with you people. This is non-partisan. It's for Zambians. I've been following and I'll keep following. May God bless you. Thank you so much for now.
Thank you very much,
Amen.
sir, and thank you for your comments. You can call us on the numbers that are appearing on the screen. You can also participate by sending text messages. Director, please, even if we are our guest is in the middle of explaining something, if a phone call comes in, please allow it. We will know how to squeeze it ourselves.
Indeed.
Don't cut them. People are tired of hearing you just talk.
Indeed.
Going through yourself.
I think this is one of the things, which is why I am sad that you are not at the helm of the Economics Association of Zambia. When you were saying, bang, 1, 2, 3, we're going to have this conference. 4, we're going to have this implementation thing. 5, we're going to visit this country. And I miss that spirit where we set deadlines instead of getting stuck in what they call sometimes analysis paralysis, where you just keep explaining yourselves amongst yourselves when you know what is wrong, when you know that continuing to export copper cathodes and steel sheets is not as profitable as adding value, when you know that you have a country that is so huge. It is 715,000 square kilometers. That is double the size of Germany and has less than half the population of Germany or any other small European country. When you know that Elon Musk would rather go to Germany, which is already doesn't have much space, but you can give him 50,000 square kilometers in here in Zambia and put him in a multi-facility economic zone where he enjoys certain incentives that give it the raw material is around, and then you create jobs for the more than 50% of the youth that are capable of getting those jobs, and they do not have them, and they gain from skills transfer, and they gain that income. They gain that income and they develop the country. But why not do it? You have the power. If you have the power,
in politics, like to hold any political whatever,
an influential political office here.
Before I'll come back to that. Yes, your name and where you calling from?
Oh, my name is Mwanga.
Yes, Mr. Mwanga.
I'm supposed to the follower.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, yes.
You are the ones that give us the energy to continue.
The oomph.
The oomph. I'll go and look up to the dictionary what oomph means. The oomph.
Good evening, Master.
Good evening, sir. How are you today?
Fine, so this is the first. There are only two things that I want to contribute to. The number one thing that I have observed as a nation, if you want to start to say, want to put names in whatever, there are only two aspects that I've seen that this nation is lacking in terms of manpower, skilled manpower. For example, how many execution officers we have in this country? How many people are being trained in agriculture? And if at all we have so much manpower, what is the government doing in terms of employing those who are supposed to be working in the rural areas to teach about agriculture as business? Look at network intelligence. In 2002, when President Manamoto came into power, nitrogen was shut. At that particular time, I was part of the team that was constructed to do the implementation of nitrogen. We did the implementation and the production started, the NPK department. That is the only thing that was the left from. Up to today, it's only NPK which is the case. And it is not taking as much as it's supposed to be. And when we are saying not to develop agriculture, we expect to trend which is coming from China, which is coming from Israel, which is coming from Russia. Are we ready for development in that No. The government needs to take or give more fertilizer manufacturing plants in this country. Like what you have said in Nigeria, not 1 month, Congote has built a very big fertilizer factory, which will be supplied the whole entire Africa. Now, suppose we are to that, in Zambia. Meaning that the fertilizer will be cheaper and production will go up. Now, with this kind of arrangement whereby you don't have a manufacturing plant, not a ammonium nitrate, you have to come, they're looking for ammonium nitrate. There is no ammonium nitrate in Zambia. How can we develop production like that? The government needs to put up measures for money in nitrogen chemicals. The government needs to employ, that's what they have done with the teachers. They need to employ extension officers, people with the definite officers, which we have to develop the meat industry. So the government has to come up with a solution of employing more extension officers, need the infrastructure, agricultural infrastructure. We have no extension officers. Mr. Amazoga, I don't want to go to Wafuna. Imagine, tomato coming to me, think she's going to Wafuna. Why is it becoming from the she's going to Wafuna? Because there's no one else keeping the hospital as total tomato production. Chicken comes from Lusaka, going to Wafuna. Are you telling me that the people can do that? They need the extension officers, they need knowledge. Where there is no knowledge, people perish. There is poverty in these areas because there are not people to teach the local people more about production in terms of poultry, piggery, and other stuff. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. If I may just chip in before, what was the name of our Mr. Mubanga raises a number of salient points. To me, one of the biggest issues he raises, which I would like to ride on, is the issue of fertilizer, and how if we had many more fertilizer manufacturing plants or factories, how the prices suddenly of such an important input in our agriculture process could go down, and how production could suddenly go up. I am not good at numbers, like I said at the very beginning of the program, but I am pretty certain, I am pretty sure that it probably costs much less to invest in 2 or 3 more fertilizer plants, subsidize them even, than it would cost us every year to import fertilizer at more than $50 to $60 million or euros. I think that should be food for thought, and that this platform prepares a natural space for literature review for the powers that be to say, should we continue to engage middlemen or any other suppliers to bring in fertilizer, or should we put in a one-off huge payment into putting in a factory to produce fertilizer? Look at an example of Nigeria, which is an oil-producing country but has been importing refinery all this time. Until Dangote decided now we are going to have our own. Can't we learn? Do we need to reinvent the wheel?
You know,
Can't we learn? We had.
Like the first and second callers have said, we, first of all, we talk too much, then we don't want to solve what is on the ground.
Indeed.
What is developing a country? Zambia has 10 provinces.
Yeah.
What is $1 billion to Zambia? It's nothing.
It's nothing.
My brother, if a factory that makes tires costs in China not more than $100 million. So in 10 provinces, you say, Luapula, you are going to receive a factory that makes tires. We'll put it in Chirenge, for example.
Or Kawambo, near the border there. Yeah.
Put it in Kawambo, you put. Mchinga, you are going to be making alcohol, because or alcohol you put it in Luapula because of the cassava. You are going to be making ethanol, what, yes, chibuku and what. Such a factory will cost $40 million. That will be the top range.
Yeah.
They will come, you buy it, they will come and install it, and it is
skills transfer.
Yes,
The whole
Because
nine yards.
the way you develop a country is you put a factory.
Yeah.
Then around the factory, there's going to be an economy that is going
Of course,
to
there'll be schools, there'll be hospitals, there'll be churches.
And you know, one
Development.
wonderful thing is that it can even be done using project financing. You
Yes.
don't have to spend
Your own money.
treasury or money
Yeah.
to set up such plans.
So in Wapura, ethanol, you make ethanol for the vehicles, you make spirit for the
alcohol.
hospitals,
And for the
you make
hospitals.
for alcohol, you do, and because you have the cassava already available, you create it. Government, because no private sector is going to come. Zambians that don't have money.
No, for long
For
term.
you to convince a German to come to Zambia, first you have to show him where Zambia is on the map.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know what Tugulunga ni nani Watugulu.
Wakopala. Abalosh. Yeah.
You see, you don't know them. So you go and say that. Then you go to Muchinga, you say Muchinga built factory making tires.
Yeah.
Then you go to Central Province, you pick Mkushi because there's a lot of manganese and copper in Central. Say you are going to be making batteries.
Yeah. Value addition.
Value addition.
Yeah.
You'll be making batteries. Do you know how much that plant costs? If you think I'm lying, go and Google. The Chinese have made production very cheap. Not more than $100 million. You go to Eastern Province. You guys, you have a lot of groundnuts. You are going to make for you
And goats.
a very big
Factory
for making cooking oil and the other oils,
Other oil products.
oil products.
Yeah.
You go to Western Province, you are going to do what?
So cashew nuts, you've got
Yes,
mangoes.
Livingstone, you are going to be manufacturing in the Southern Province. You'll be manufacturing radios. In order to be manufacturing TVs to an assembly.
So, Doc,
In 1 year, sorry, you are going to have 10 factories per 10
one per
factories
province.
In 10 years, each town is going to have a factory that creates a livelihood. Then, mind you, when you create one factory, you are creating another factory because I need to supply this. This, no, they use limestone to do this. No, here we have a cement belt coming from Ndola up to Chiranga. Limestone, it's just a cement belt.
Yeah.
We have copper belt and cement belt. We don't need so much cement, yes, but we can sell cement outside the country. There are people that in Dubai, where are they going to find cement? You can just do cement factories all around, that's for export. Cheap. Take to Congo. Congo now is making its own cement because how can you operate without a border? I see presidents meet.
Yeah.
President Lungu used to meet his counterpart, HH used to meet his counterpart, Rupia Banda, but you are still have trucks.
Yeah. Stuck.
So what do they discuss?
Yeah. And you know, when those trucks are stuck, there is a huge cost on the owners of the trucks because they have to spend, instead of 2 nights for the truck driver at the border, they have to spend 5 nights. And then just because they are there 5 nights, they have increased the population around that border area, therefore putting a strain on the facilities that exist there. You start having gastrointestinal diseases because a toilet that was supposed to be used by 1 person is now being used by 10
people.
You know, and then business is not moving. Where the border control guys for customs and immigration were supposed to be collecting 1,000 per day, because of the delays, they are collecting 500. So it's just counterproductive. I don't know.
Japao, the first caller asked us, are you going to participate in making sure
Indeed.
that things move?
Yeah,
Or
instead
we're
of
just
passing
going
the
to
buck.
Yes, are we just going to be talking?
Yeah.
well, when we're given that platform, of course, we participate, but for now, we educate. For now, we educate. Those who want to hear can hear. Just the same issue you were talking about, plants, factories, you know. This is something that can be done. Coming back to the diplomats that are being sent, you said they go there and just hide below the radar.
Because they're scared.
These are the people who can market these ideas to these big companies to come and set up.
We have a call?
Hello?
Hello, your name and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello, your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, good evening, Doc.
Good evening.
Okay, and good evening, Ambassador MUKWITA.
Good evening, sir. How are you this evening?
No, we're very fine, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Benjamin. I'm calling you from Sorese.
Okay.
Yeah, when I listen to Doc, also to the ambassador, I'm feeling good. Now, it is very much that ukuranda kwa nyanguka. Lero kuomba kwa shiko. Eso sere ya wasana mzamida. Because the way you are articulating issues there, if this thing were brought into reality, this country would have not been the way it is. And I'm very happy that we are able to see far from where we are. And that's very important. Now, when I look at your, the topic you're looking at, it says the role of diplomacy in economic development. And Ambassador MUKWITA were away from Zambia to Germany. And I think you've been there for a while. Now, if I may ask you a simple question, like the way you are articulating issues there, what have you brought in a diplomatic way from Germany to Zambia? We are giving examples of saying, no, we've been talking, we've been doing what, and they're giving good plans. That was straight on and so if you have a soul. No, you don't want you. Fish, you know, to understand the question, how, one master there about you. Validate pana. If they won't make up. Because if you say we shall just be talking, it means it starts to touch with you. When I listen to Doc also, I follow Dr. Abazoka each and every time. All the posts he posts, I follow. Now what Doc? Let us go back. If you this to and the way that makes no for. One is referring to implementation. That's what I say, sir. I'll give a very product example in Sorese, Northwestern Province. It's a new copper bill. How much I need to know they have come up with this small thing, what we call the crushers and the processing plant. Which even a Zambian can do. But such jobs have been given to non-Chinese. I made an example you gave of saying, now I say that you owe $1 million in Pangenisha so. That means that and that's Pangenama for Pakistan. Okay, wonderful. How many cooperatives have been formed?
Thousands,
Are they going to power every cooperative? It will not work out.
No.
1 month. I'm a grant very 20,000. Where are you going to reach? The fact, okay. No, but you know what I'm saying? No Western Province. Maybe the only central, for example. Here is the money. Go into a bigger thing that will benefit a lot of people. So, it's not what I'm trying to say is, I'm happy that you have mentioned this, but I'm also against it because one, you being in such position, you need to be influential. Ambassador, you were out. And what was the role of that? Though we are into Economic Association of Zambia.
Was.
What are you doing about it? Which we are going to remember to say, when Dr. Abazoka was here, this is the legacy ref. When Ambassador MUKWITA was in Germany, this is why he has ref. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution.
That is, I like specific questions. This is a challenge, a call to duty to say, you know, you are talking the talk, but can you show us whether you are walking the walk?
Yes.
I think if my dear brother, Mr. From Solwezi?
From Solwezi.
Yeah, if he was listening at the beginning of the program. And you know, it's very important to have intelligent followers of programs because they also activate your mind. You did mention we cannot name names sometimes because certain issues are still on the table. For instance, the electricity off-taker, all you knew about in the past was that ZESCO is the one that is going to buy electricity or to engage into power pooling. We have, while I was in Germany, starting from way back in 2017, I brought some people who had a meeting they would have never had with the president. And up to now, they have come and established base right here in Zambia. And it's going to make, and they're employing Zambians, and they are going to make electricity a much better thing to do and reduce on the number of hours that we may have to lose. I was not only ambassador to Germany based in Berlin, but I also had extra accreditation to countries such as Austria. I can tell you that one of the issues that we brought in on my watch was the funding, low financing, zero interest for the cancer center. When you talk about people, when you talk about cancer, people think like, what is he talking about? A plague? Cancer kills almost 8,000 Zambians every year. It's a silent killer. Nobody talks about it. But while in Germany with extra accreditation to Austria, I managed to rope in about 6.8 million euros of zero-rated financing, government to government. We signed an MOU. It's up to the government to complete it right now. It's about 130 million kwachas, which would totally rehabilitate the cancer center and slash in half the number of people that die from cancer today. This means the government of Zambia will stop sending people to India, they'll stop sending people to South Africa, they'll stop sending people to several other expensive destinations, and they'll drastically reduce the number of people that are dying. And they'll pay that at almost no cost at all, because people from Malawi, Tanzania, South Africa, and others that used to go to India would come to Zambia. We brought in people that have expanded agriculture. We helped them with visas. We helped them with paperwork. We helped them with immigration. We brought in television crews that increased the number of tourists that come to Zambia on European channels, which were viewed by more than 50 million people, 100 million people. And if my brother from Solwezi used to read, I practically wrote every week. I wrote an editorial comment about what we did. It would appear in the Daily Mail, the Times of Zambia, including on my page that has more than 50,000 followers, bigger than some of the small newspapers here. So I am not shy to say what we have done or being taken to account of what we could do. I think that is part of the reason why those that have eyes and those that are not shy of being associated with others, such as Dr. Luvinda Habazwaka, would invite us at such important fora, such as the economic diplomacy, out of the many other diplomats, in order to come and share our experiences. But the end, again, as we discuss the role of economic diplomacy in national economic development, is we need brothers like that man from Solwezi to bring these issues, to say, don't just talk. Show us first what you have done and tell us what you can do and give us timelines. But we should talk, because talking is like dreaming. If you do not dream, how are you going to be able to achieve anything at all? You must be able to dream
people
first.
Write on my page especially, we were ESZ president, what did you do?
What did you do?
So ESZ is
You brought in 3 presidents in one office, something that had not been done. And I keep bringing that back over and over.
ESZ is not government.
Indeed.
The only role of ESZ is to talk.
Indeed.
Economic policy advocate. So
to lobby.
To lobby. So in lobbying presidents to come here, to come and discuss our problem, that was my job. Today we are talking about booth, but Zambians easily forget. We developed prototypes under what we were trying to call the Citizens Entrepreneur Development Program.
I think I saw that on your page, actually.
We developed prototypes of booth. And this is the way a future booth should look like. And there was, so it was up to government and the private sector to move in. With some private sector came in, COVID hit. These are things that people can revive. But sometimes people won't revive to say, no, that guy was working with Lungu. But with whom should I be working? Now, for example, now, with whom should I work? When the president is at church? With whom can you work when the person who's in charge? You can. How can I go and work with Mnangagwa when if I go and work with Mnangagwa, I'm developing Zimbabwe. This country, colleagues, we have seen presidents come and presidents go, but Zambia remains. My mother used to live. Anyway, let's speak this.
Hello.
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 Yes, your name and where you calling from?
Oh, I'm Mkandawile, calling from the Wansha.
Hey, Babansha Mlishani.
Tulisho kuno na kumulishani mko.
Tafile chirapa wali.
Kwa sasha. I'm a keen follower of issues, especially this economic briefcase. It's a nice program.
Thank you very much.
Very educative. And I've heard what you are saying there. And it's very good for those that are listening. And I'm very much encouraged by what you are saying. Because we are learning even from what you are saying. Hello?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yeah. Now, one or two things that I want to comment on. Like when we are sending people into the diplomatic mission, I think this is something that we really need to address and see to it that we don't just say the cadres there, but we send people, like you people who know what you are going to do in that mission, instead of just sending somebody who go there and just hide, and then just get these salaries, the dollars, and that is all. So it's very important that we critically look at the people we are sending out in our diplomatic missions. That is one thing that we have to work on. The second thing, you talked about the comparative advantage, like you've mentioned Angola, you've mentioned Namibia, you've mentioned Congo. I mean, look at the arable land you have even mentioned. What are we doing, especially to expand the agricultural sector? Because this is something that can unlock a lot of billions, which we can benefit from exporting our goods to Angola, Congo, Namibia, and even the others. So we don't need to go very far. But our neighboring countries, we are strategically located. But look at how much we are doing. So the agriculture sector is one thing that we really have to work on, so that we really develop and we see that we bring economic development into our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Before we react to that, Director, do we have any messages? For Anton MUKWITA on the interview now, greetings. I'm enjoying your discussion. Good to see and hear you. Good night. Sorry, Godfrey Mianda. Is it the Godfrey Mianda we know?
I hope so.
I hope so. Evening, my brothers, we shouldn't wait for outsiders. It's time we use our people and resources. We call it Iluvuto dollar. Good evening. This is a very educative and inspiring program. My question is that with your rich wealth and knowledge, coupled with high level of intellectualism and patriotism for Zambia, why can't you, Dr. Abazoka and Ambassador MUKWITA, stand as MPs in your constituencies so that this great-based nation, Mother Zambia, can benefit to the maximum from you, sons of the soil? Good evening. This is a very educative and inspiring program. My question is that with your rich and wealthy knowledge coupled with high level of intellectualism and patriotism for Zambia, Why can't leaders in this country, why can't, let me read it the way it is.
Why can't
leaders this country needs in the political leadership like yesterday? Thank you very much, Richard Mondo from Sioma. I think he says we need leaders like this in this country for today. So, under 5 minutes, we react to some of the messages and the previous caller. We start with Ambassador.
Under 5 minutes, Dr. Habazoka, just to thank you again and the Camnet family for inviting me over with your co-host, Mr. Njapau. Under 5 minutes, I think I would like to take home one of the issues you raised in order to make this country rich again. We go back to what we already had at the very start when Kaunda introduced a factory for development in each and every province, when we had Cashionite plants, when we had Mazoe plants or Tarino, when we had bicycle plants, when we had ITT, when we had Livingston motor assemblies. Those things worked when we had Mansa batteries. We must go back to that when we had nitrogen chemicals of Zambia. Under 5 minutes, the other issue that you raised regarding the prototype of the booths, I would like to throw the gauntlet and the challenge actually to the Ministry of Local Government, to the Ministry of Infrastructure, as we discuss the booths, to go beyond the booths and the prototypes, to probably start looking much bigger than just cleaning the gutters in Lusaka, but building a new city. Let's go the way of Canberra of Australia, or Washington, D.C. of the United States of America, or, you know, Abuja of Nigeria. Why don't we think big? Why don't we have a new capital city for Lusaka 58 years after independence? Lusaka is too small. It is too dirty. It was built for a few people. It can't contain clearly the population of more than 4 million that keeps increasing. It will create jobs. It will create better opportunities, and it will just make the country a much better economic place than it was. It would attract more people to come to this country. I would like to end by thanking you.
As an MP in your area?
That's maybe when you call me for the next program, okay, and you ask the question in another way.
Because of time, I was supposed to explain something on the projects, the factories, and the industries we were talking about. But what we're going to do is we're going to find a guest next week who's going to talk about PPPs, project finance, so we can explain how better these ideas can be implemented using these financing structures that are available. My ending question to both of you, he said, with whom should we work with? I'll throw it to him, then I'll also throw one to you. You've been in diplomatic mission, you've been in correspondence for Bloomberg. What is next for Anthony MUKWITA?
That's a very good question.
I think at the moment, this is a very good forum that you have provided, because when I speak to Dr. Habazoka and to Brother Njapau, I offer a certain voice that is normally absent without any party or political inclinations. That way I'm able to cut through the noise much easier than if I'm wearing a certain tag. I've only been back after almost 8 years for just about maybe 7-8 months. So Rome wasn't built in a day. Maybe over a cup of tea or a glass of wine or a pull of shisha, we can discuss what the next move will be. But for the meantime,
we're Christian, we don't encourage wine and shisha. But we encourage biblical wine.
Is that non-alcoholic?
You were watching Economic Briefcase on Camnet TV. Our guest was Ambassador Anthony MUKWITA. We were discussing the role of diplomacy in economic development. And today with me was my co-host, Mr. Noah Njapau, the ever-smiling,
and
ever-attentive, ever-researching member of this particular country. And before we close, I would like to say these few words. Colleagues, sustainability of economic freedom is going to rely in education. That's one. Two, to love a country is not a choice. Yeah? It's not even a calling. You need to love your country. That is by P. It's default.
It's a duty.
It's a duty to love your country. That's why for your kids, you fathers, mothers, your kids, you need to force your children to love the country and to love the neighbors. We don't want hatred in this republic. We were taught when we were growing up to always love thy neighbor as we love ourselves, and to love the Republic of Zambia. I remember when presidents were coming to the Copper Belt Bakaunda, we used to line up in the streets and, you know, and
wave the flags
to show him that we are the custodians of the people. We are the custodians of the... We form part of the Republic of Zambia. And mind you, today we are all alive. After 100 years, none of us will be alive. There will be new Zambians. They need to find a well-developed Zambia. See you next week. Continue watching Camnet TV, because Camnet TV is not just another channel. Bye-bye.